Afternoon, all. Welcome to this afternoon's meeting, Corporate Services and Financial Resilience Service Transformation Committee. Any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Bentu.
I haven't received any, Sam. Item 2, disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests, please. None noted, Sam. And then to approve the minutes from the 26th of September, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4 and 5. We have a mover, please. And a seconder, please. Thank you. Right, item 4 is Customer Charter and Service Standards Framework. Sarah's here to deliver this, yeah? Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Chair. You remember that we talked about this initially in the summer. It came to the committee on the 25th of July, where we'd done some initial preparatory work. A lot of the standards are already in operation, and some of which are statutory. So they've all been reviewed by heads of service many times since then. We've also gone out in the form of a survey to do some consultation with the public on these as well. And the charter has been undertaken, again, looking at good practice, what other councils have already got in place as well, looking at what service requirements are, service demand, and feedback we've had from the public as well. So again, we've been through another feedback loop with this. You'll see section 2 of the report highlights the feedback we had from the survey, but we are also undertaking some further one-to-one sessions with individual community groups at the moment. So as we get more feedback, we'll be adding that into the charter and standards. You'll see as well in the financial implications, there is reference there where we might need to do other formats, where we need to do braille or large print. The implication would be that services would have to absorb this cost moving forward if there's a requirement for it. So we will look at where we could have a central contract for all services to use, but services would need to fund that themselves. So you'll see in the recommendations, so just to discuss the feedback today, the feedback we've had so far, bearing in mind there's still some one-to-one sessions we're doing with community groups, and then the other recommendation is to recommend this to Cabinet in January. Thank you, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah, please? Or any observations? Sarah? Sandra, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got a couple of observations. I do appreciate that you said this has been through heads of service and so on, but there were a couple of the deadlines that I picked up, within the following timescales that I'd picked up that did concern me, particularly around timescales involving people who might be struggling for different reasons. So, for example, one that I picked up was somebody who might be struggling with council tax. Now, what it does say is with the time scale that you would look at resolving or setting up a plan or something within 28 working days. That's nearly 6 weeks. So for someone who's struggling, add another 6 weeks on. I just wonder whether that is an appropriate time scale, and it's just something that I would wish you to consider. The second one that if I'm truthful, bothers me more, and there may well be issues surrounding why this is happening, is under education, and it's the free school meals one that you say again, 28 working days, which is nearly 6 weeks for a free school meals application to be processed. Now, if you bring that right down to that individual child, what we're talking about here is a child not having a school dinner for 6 weeks. Now, when you put it in that context, I wonder whether there is anything else that can be addressed around that, or whether the time scale can be shortened. But it does concern me that where it is somebody who is struggling in some shape or form, somebody who needs that intervention. I just wonder whether those timescales could be looked at, please.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, carry on, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I'll take that back to the heads of service. I think these are maximum times, if I'm honest. I think that in reality, it is much quicker for these to be resolved, but I will take these back to the heads of service. I think this is to allow a maximum amount of time if needed, but generally speaking, they are much sooner. So I'll take those back and I'll feed those back to you. Thank you.
Sarah, I got two questions for you. One, well, it's more of an observation, really. It's with regards to the complaints. Corporate complaints, stage 1, 10 working days, stage 2, 20 working days, and social services complaints obviously follow specific policies. So how confident are we that, we're moving forward and that we are addressing them kind of officially, and that we are hitting our targets on the complaints that are internal and external, please? And the other one then is about freedom of information requests, which I know is a nightmare for everyone. So obviously, once the receipt comes in for a freedom of information request, and then it's 20 working days, are we confident that it's 20 working days is kind of sufficient for us to release that information? And is it standard practice, across other councils and other organisations such as us, that 28 days is the standard?
So yes, on taking the complaints one first, we introduced a new system in 1st of July, so the new system has been live for corporate complaints. It's not with social services ones yet, but for the corporate ones, and that has made a huge difference. So yes, we're at really good performance around people responding on stage 1 complaints for corporate complaints. Stage 2 complaints, yes, we generally meet the targets within stage 2. Sometimes they do take a little bit longer because if you've got a complaint that perhaps involves different organisations, not just our own, if we have to liaise with health or with housing associations, then it can take time to a bit longer. But usually what we do is we liaise with the resident that's made the complaint and get their permission if we need a bit longer. But generally speaking, performance has been really good with corporate complaints. On the FOI, yes, it is a deadline for 20 working days. That has to be met. Again, with FOIs, sometimes they can be quite complicated. We are seeing they're getting more complicated, and they can be very complicated, and especially where you've got social services FOIs as well. They do take time because they can involve, again, same with complaints, multiple organisations. And sometimes they can be quite in depth, where one FOI can actually have quite a lot of questions within it. So within that, usually the same applies. If we need a bit longer, we'd usually go back to the resident and ask if it's acceptable to them to give us more time. But we do try and stick. Obviously, we know that 20 days is the statutory deadline. We have also, we're bringing in a new system before the end of the year around FOI and SARS, which we're hoping will help in terms of the processing, gathering information together to make it quicker. As we've seen with the complaints, we're hoping that by bringing in the new system, that's going to help with performance as well.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think, it's all about progression. It's how we transform. And, customer contact is a big thing. And, staff are customers. So it's a big, big thing, this customer contact policy. But I thank you for coming here today. Thank you for the work you've done. It's been like 6 months. I know I haven't been here 6 months, but it's interesting. And, there are quite a conversations across the organisation about customer contact and about how we deal with it. So I welcome this policy, and I thank you for the work that's been done by you and your team. Thank you. Are there any more questions or any more observations for Sarah, please? All happy? Thank you, Sarah. Item 5 is co-production policy. Once again, welcome both. We've got Rian and Lee We're almost there, guys, are we? We're there.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I won't remind the committee of every step we've taken, but you'll obviously recall we worked with you throughout the year to develop our co-production policy, the first co-production policy this council has had. And what we've done during that period is kind of develop a policy and work with Co-Pro Lab with that, set up a network of champions who've been instrumental in kind of taking the policy forward, provided training, and we're now working or finishing off the toolkit. Before you today, you've got the policy and also a report which would take the policy forward to Cabinet and ask Cabinet to adopt it. In terms of the policy itself, I think just going through it, I think it's a very easy, simplistic policy, but it covers some very key areas. I think in Appendix A, looking at the table, that's a very useful guide of when you should be using different levels of engagement and involvement, including co-production. And then again, another easy kind of way to navigate through the policy and the issue of co-production. We talk about when to apply it, but also when it might not be so easy to use co-production. So I think the policy document is a really good tool that you can work your way through. And even if you aren't too familiar with co-production, it gives you that guidance and step-by-step approach and like do's and don'ts and when to use it and when not to use it. So I think as officers, we're really pleased with the policy. It does what we wanted to when we set out on this journey earlier this year. And I think hopefully the committee will be pleased with it. They've been involved all along the way. So hopefully there's no nasty surprises in there for you. It has been developed in conjunction with you. And I think on that point, Chair, I'd like to thank the committee because I think the co-production policy is a really good example of where officers and committees can work together along with a cabinet member to develop a policy. This is a brand new area for the council. So you're starting from scratch. We brought in some experts, but I think the involvement of our cabinet member and the committee has been instrumental in developing the policy and coming up with something which is really workable and quite easy to understand. So again, I'd just like to say thank you to the committee and our cabinet member for that.
Thank you, Lee. Rhian? Thank you. Right, any questions, any observations for either Lee or Rhian, please? We're all very quiet. Oh, Leslie, Councillor Walton, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just want to return a thank you. One of the things that I raised was the headline when not to co-produce, and I felt it was slightly inaccurate, and I'm very pleased that you've changed it when it might be difficult to co-produce, which I think is far more accurate. So thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Are there any more questions? Councillor Gwilym, please, Hayley.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse my voice, I've got a sore throat. Yeah, I just wanted to really say, obviously, this is an important and significant step forward towards a goal, you know, of co-producing council provisions and changing the way that we work. So it's going to be a massive cultural shift. And it might not come easy, but we're on that journey. And again, I'd just like to echo the thanks that Lee gave to the committee and Co-Pro Lab, as well as other officers and the champions who've been really invested in creating this policy and the accompanying toolkit, which is enormous to go with it. So I'd just like to put on record my thanks as well.
Thank you, Hayley. Any more? I've just got one quick question for you. How many champions do we have currently, please? And is that the target?
We've got at least, apologies, I've got my button. Yeah, all services are represented, but in some areas there are more. So, for example, as you'd imagine, social services have got far more, but everyone's represented. But we've operated the champions meeting so people can dip in and out, and every time there's a new champions meeting, we would invite not just the champions, but wider staff as well to join in. So it's kind of a fluid group, but every service is represented.
And I think what we find, Chairs, once this is adopted by Cabinet, we'll then do more work with services to try and get more people involved.
Yeah.
So yes, a starting point really.
and you know what I'm like now for development, personal development. So it's a target because this policy achieves so much for us internally as an organisation, but probably it's given opportunities and confidence to people who maybe not would have stood forward or saw promotion. So, you know, being a champion is a big, big thing. It's a step forward and it's an opportunity that probably people or staff may not have had the confidence to come forward. So it's a starting point for a lot.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying and I welcome. And, you know, as we progress, we are here and we'd like to progress with you. So thank you as a team and thanks for having us.
you.
And we'll always welcome you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Chair. I think the only final point for us is January the 18th is when it's earmarked to go to Cabinet. So it's whether either yourself, Chair, or other representatives of the committee are available that day to present the report. Fabulous. Thank you.
So we'll formally adopt the report then, okay? Yeah, all in favour? Yeah, or nods? Nods. Thank you. And then we've got the work plan going forward, which is item 6. Where's my work plan now? Right, so September. Right, 23rd of January is workforce transformation. Leadership management, learning and development. Obviously David Hopkins and Rachel Davis will be here to present that. And then we've got 27th February medium term financial plan. That's a biggie. With obviously Rob and Mr. Smith will be here. And then 23rd of April, we got preparation of our annual report to submitted by end of year. Nothing to add? No. There we are then. Thank you very much. And meeting's closed for today. Thank you for your attendance. Have a lovely Christmas. Be good. I'll see you in the new year probably. Take care.
Thanks, Chair. Have a nice Christmas.